Hello, I'm making this video about something I've seen before where you just end up with, in games, a player versus GM mentality. This will often rise, I find, when people are when the GM, either the GM doesn't seem to be listening to the players, or the players feel that the GM is so harsh with the rules and being so unfair with the rules that you just kind of get into that mentality. Sometimes it feels a bit more, sometimes you feel very justified as a player, and I've been in games where I felt that way. I was in a Shadowrun game where the GM was very harsh about lots of different things. He's fairly liberal in a lot of areas, but he's ridiculously harsh in some areas. I remember, for example, one of the things was we were just starting to play the game, so we made a mistake on how spells were done. He actually told me how it went, and I was playing in the depth, so I was like, okay, you know, I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, he couldn't have gotten those spells because he's got to spend XP. He told me it was just to spend money, and we made a big score, and I didn't want to buy any because I was like, oh yeah, it affects your magic. So I was like, okay, well I actually want to use magic. I don't want to get any of this bonding stuff because it'll mess with my magic. So it's like, oh, you're gonna have to get, you know, you're gonna spend XP as well. It's like, oh, okay, we'll have to save up for that then. But I've paid the actual money cost as well, so I've gotten some training, these different things. And we're like, okay. But with my starting abilities, I had chosen a spell which are, I think, something to do with initiative or something, some spell that helped with initiative. But he wasn't using initiative like that. He'd gone off and done some custom house rule thing, and I was like, this actual ability, because of the way you've done things, is actually useless because you're not using this rule. This ability does not come into the game at all, and I have a very limited number of spells. So one of the new ones I had learned, can I just swap that out? Like, you know, same. It would effectively, if I just made the character with this, it would be the exact same character, but with this. And this ability is actually useless. I've paid good points for my character to actually have this. I've, you know, given up other options. He's like, no, can't do it. So I'm like, God damn it. So yeah, that game, that game, I got very players versus GM. He kept trying to build things up a lot more. He kept trying to escalate things so much higher. We're kind of like, okay. I mean, we got a ridiculous amount of money because I don't think he was thinking things through a lot of the time. And we got a ridiculous amount of money, and we went off and we got a load of equipment. And we actually went off and we're like, okay, we've got another company. He's like, I'm going to bring the game forward another year. And we kind of did a bit of how things have been going on for that year and spending our money. One of the players did a big list of, oh, we've got all this. He kind of showed the rest of us, like, yeah, we're cool with this thing. We get this stuff. We kind of skim through. It was like, yeah, let's go stuff and talking about different things. And this is like 4 pages of equipment. And he goes, Jim, well, we've had a year. We have bought this stuff. And he shows him the list. The GM looks through the list. And he looks at the first page. He doesn't turn the page over. He looks at the first page, which is like, he didn't ask any questions about anything. He just looks at the first page. So he's like, oh, okay, and the first page is just pistols. He's like, okay, fine. So later in the campaign, when we go, okay, guess we'll crack out our VTOL. He's like, what, you know VTOL? He's like, yes, we do. Now, Ferris, if he said, wait a minute, guys. You know, we could have discussed this out, but he didn't go for it. He's like, he just cursed us and let's go to hell. But unfortunately, just seeing games go like this, where it just gets worse and worse and worse and harsher, where the players in the game they're trying to outdo each other. And I've heard some horrible examples of how different people have gone, and it's just so hard to figure out how the hell this kind of starts happening. And your game can get so focused on the mechanics. I have to admit, we had fun with that game, but not for the right reasons. I think the GM had fun with that game too, but not for the right reasons. We weren't outright against the GM, but we were, you know, he was so harsh on, no, I'm doing it like this. Is like, and there's no give. He was giving no explanation of why things were like this. It's like, okay, you've changed it from the book, and you're hanging it just like this. So we were like, okay, well, when we found stuff, we were going by the book, but we were being very, we were like, it's got this in the book, and you didn't say anything about it before, and he's like, yeah, and he hadn't thought about it, so he didn't go, you can't do that. And it's like, if he'd gone, okay guys, that's a bit crazy, but the thing is, he'd never leg to stand on what the argument of that's a bit crazy, because he was just changing stuff and giving no explanation whatsoever. It's like, and it's not like, if you have a GM you can trust, the GM can turn around and go, you can kind of avert his stuff by going, I've had a GM turn around going, no, this is not working. Like, this is something that's supposed to work, or, automatically, where it's like, oh no, just not working. You pull off a spell and you're pretty sure it's going to work, and he's like, oh no, it's not working. And you go, no, but it says in the rules here, see, explains, and then the GM goes, no, it's not working, trust me, there's a reason. I'm like, okay, and you might not find that reason out for 10 sessions, or never, or you might, but then the campaign might turn around, hey, remember that time I did this, what the hell was up with that? And it might tell you, it's like, when you trust the GM, you can do that, but you just end up with this. I don't know if you guys been in any groups where you've just kind of ended up with this mentality with the GM and the players just opposed to each other and just trying to outdo each other. And so in certain ways, like, I don't think we were ever, we weren't trying to destroy his game rating, but we were trying to scrounge for every advantage we could get, because it was so difficult the way he was going about it. But this mentality can kind of build up, and it had started in a previous game he had done where he was so ridiculously harsh in certain ways. Like, it just seemed over the top. And the worst part is that I've seen in these kind of games, the GM, it's never a good idea whether it's as confrontational as what I'm talking about or not, where the GM starts trying to outdo themselves. Like, every single bad guy must be tougher than the last bad guy, and every single thing must get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, because he can't keep up that kind of a curve. He's got it, and it's a very boring curve. It's not fun to just be constantly going up and up and up and up and up. There's got to be a bit more, you don't necessarily feel like you're getting any harder, because, well, being able to go back and fight types of bad guys that you've fought before, or guys on some level that you'd fought before, when you've improved, and you're like, wow, last time we almost all died, but that fight was over in like 2 or 3 rounds. Like, wow, we're really becoming badasses here. But you don't always get that, which is a nuisance, which is just annoying. And when the GM just kind of constantly trying to make everything bigger and better, fair enough that, like, for your end campaign boss, you're trying to make him to be the toughest thing you can fight. And I'm not saying that, every fight sometimes be more challenging as you go up. They certainly should, but you can do environmental things to make it tougher, like the layout of the battlefield and just various different things. But when it's just this constant up and up and up, which I think is worse, which can happen in games where the players aren't confrontational, but when they are, it just gets so much worse, and it gets so much more ridiculous, and that's when any joy starts to fade for quickly for me. Like, I was able to get over those days, if I was in that game again, now that I have more experience things, I would have just left. But I just wanted to hang out with my friends, I just wanted to have fun, and that's the way we went. But just this culture had built up in the group with regards to that particular GM. Like, he was okay guy, but he needed to rein back some of what he was doing. He needed to explain more, because when you got that trust, as I said, when you got that trust with the GM, and you can discuss, or you can trust that he will explain this to me, or even if he doesn't explain this to me, I know this GM's a reasonable guy. So, but he didn't feel like this GM was being a reasonable guy. We were like, you're just screwing us over for no reason. You're just making up new rules. Which, okay, when you're the GM, you can go, well, I'm modifying different things, or whatever, but this wasn't in a reasonable way. This was, he like, if you're doing it even if you're going, I'm changing it, because I employ a lot of house rules and different things. Like, I'm working on doing a debt watch, like, I want to do debt watch again, but I prefer the only war rules so much, I'm modifying a lot of the stuff to actually be like only war. I'm using the aptitude system for XP, and I'm trying to figure out how to do advanced specialities and different things, because I kind of want to have something being there because they're cool. And I'm doing a lot of house rules and different things, and I do that. But there's a difference between when you're being reasoned about it, or the thing is, people are always going to take one or two of the rules you're doing when you're doing house rules might not be that reasonable or whatever. But sometimes it feels unreasonable. And that, I suppose that's an entirely, it's agreed that's a bit of a different topic as well. So I'll leave it there. I might do a topic in that where just the GM, when a GM's just going off making house rules that like, you're doing what now? Because house rules are good and bad. They can go badly. There's, I do always feel it. I feel like it's odd when players go off and go, or when people go off and go, oh no, it's in the rules. It must be balanced. It's like, yeah, no, that's not true. That really isn't necessarily true. Sometimes either it's slipped through in play testing or they haven't thought it through completely. But that's anyway. I'll leave it there. I'd like to hear what other people's experiences with games where the GM and the players are kind of getting into this cycle, which can only be a bad thing, because in that game we still had some character development, the story development, which was particularly bad for me because that Shadowrun game, I was an elf adept and everyone else was human, and a lot of those guys got very racist in character after a while. Which was particularly funny because one of their characters started going out with a female elf, and so it's like, you're crazy, you can't be going off crazy. But that was all in character and just bizarre because they were like, oh fucking elves and fucking trials and all this stuff and stuff. It's like, but when you get into that cycle, it's like, it just removed, like we had character development aside when we have the story, you know, we had the story develop a bit. But I suppose it's a bit of a bad sandbox game. The GM can be very railroady at times, but I think he was trying to go for a sandboxy thing, but oddly just started really like a really blatant harsh railroading at times. But I'll leave it there. I'm hoping to hear back from people about, you know, their own experiences and just how this kind of stuff can escalate and turn a game that would have been good into something that's not quite as good. It can still be fun, but it's not what you should be going for. I'll see you again. Goodbye.